Why it's so important to get your title to your home verified. Now, if you're trying to get your house on the market and sell, a lot of times it's so easy to just put the house on the market, put it on the market, and hopefully market it and do everything you need to do to sell the home. Well, we have a listing that I was just about to put on the market and get all the photos done this coming week. Little do we know, we have some issues. Now, of course, the buyers did do the probate. So it's an estate sale and it's an estate and they did have a probate and it's been, all probated and everything else. But probates are so touchy and things can be turned in wrong or done incorrectly. And the issue with that is that when they come back on the title when you're trying to actually list a property. So so we found out today that one of the listings that I have that I'm about to, because I send in the address to my title company to verify to make sure before I sign the papers, do I have the right name on the title so I can make sure, or on the contract so I can make sure I have the right owners on the actual listing agreement. Well, we find out that somewhere in the chain of probate, the heirship paperwork was not done correctly, and so we have an heir uh, that will need to sign at closing in order to close. And of course, the seller does not want that. So that is a big problem. So now we got to go back to the attorneys and find out what happened. Okay. So why is it important to check your title before you actually put your house on the market is making sure there's no gaps, there's no issues, there's nothing like that that could be a problem because at the end of the day, what ends up happening is what if you can't find that person? What if that person that needs to sign the document so that you can close the house and get the proceeds and move on can't be found anywhere? Well, that's the case with this deal. The person who is supposedly now going to have to sign this document to close is nowhere to be found. And now all of a sudden we have a house that cannot be sold for whatever reason. So those are very, very hard title issues. And so if attorneys don't do the right things, don't file the right paperwork, or something was missed, or maybe a buyer or the seller's errors, or the sellers didn't document everything or didn't follow through on certain things they needed to do, well, this can really follow you from the time that you need to sell now to the time that you close. Now all of a sudden you can't find that person to sign the documents, and it's an unsellable property. Okay. Now, I've talked to the seller. We do have some options because, of course, the attorney who worked on these documents should have everything together. They may have just missed something, but they're going to go back and fix that. So hopefully that won't be the problem. But it's so important whenever you're listing your house for sale that you always get your title checked. Even though you can say, oh, I know I don't have any problems, I'm the only owner, whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because I'm telling you that liens can be filed on your property without you even knowing. Title can be changed and manipulated without you even knowing. I mean, there's just so many things that can happen, especially if you don't check your title every month. And it costs money to check your title. It's not that easy. So a lot of people just, I'm not going to worry about it until I sell it or whatever. Well, things can happen. Things can pop up on your title. And if you can't find the parties that you need to find to rectify those issues on your title, then sometimes it's just a dead deal. You can't sell, you can't do nothing, you can't refinance, you can't do nothing. So it is so important that before you sell your property, that you get your title checked to make sure there's nothing on there. Because even at the point where you get to closing, things can even come on your title at that point. And I had that happen. I think about maybe 10 years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago. It's so funny. I had a property that I had listed, and we had 2 weeks before closing a les pins, which is a sort of type of judgment that was put on the property before we closed, and it was for half of the proceeds of child support or something like that, and it could not be taken off. It had to stay on there, and when it closed, what ended up happening is, of course, the wife and the husband had to split that amount. He was livid. He was so upset because he wasn't expecting, after he repaired and redone the house and upgraded the house and everything, renovated it, he had to split that with her. And this was an ex-wife. Okay. So those things can happen. Those things can happen. And man, they are so bad. But, at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. You have to pay it out or you can't sell the property. It's just a dead deal. So anytime, I mean, there's no guarantee on anything, but anytime you're selling a property before you attempt to start selling, have your realtor run your title search, have your realtor run any kind of paperwork that you have just to make sure that there's nothing on the property. Make sure that all your debts or anything that you have can't be connected to anything. Make sure you don't have any issues with any creditors or nothing like that, because all that can come into your property. The other thing that I tell a lot of people to do is to make sure that you have your homestead on there. Because if you do have debts, if you have credit card debts or something like that, when you have your homestead protects your title. So if they try to put like a credit card debt on there that you owed like 20 years ago, and they want to put it on your house and say, oh, I'm going to put a lien on your house. Well, they can't do anything. You can sell your property and they can try to collect, but the title company won't pay it out because liens like that, credit card debts and things like that, they cannot take the precedence over your homestead because that's your primary residence. So that's kind of like a cool little situation. So not that I'm saying to let debt go bad, but I'm just saying if you have something old that just all of a sudden starts to pop up after 20 something years and they want to put it against your home, they can't collect. So you could still sell your home and they will take that debt away and it won't be something that's going to affect you when you're trying to sell. Okay, so just make sure you know that that's one thing. The only thing that will happen, of course, IRS can collect. Of course, IRS can collect. Attorney General can collect, so child support, that kind of things. I think taxes can collect. They can't put liens and judgments against your house, but the IRS, government, that kind of thing, they can do that. But as far as like credit cards and things like that, or just like, person to person setting up a judgment against you, those things can't be collected. So they will sit there on your name, but they cannot be collected against your house, especially when you claim homestead because it's your primary residence. So something good to know. And that way, like I said, if you're thinking about selling your house, just have your title checked to make sure that nothing's going to be in the way of getting you there so that you can sell your home. Now, if it's an investment property, investment properties don't have homestead. So that's also really important when you have an investment property to check, because investment properties, there's no way of putting homestead, because you can only put homestead on your primary residence, the residence that you live in. Okay. So make sure you understand that you cannot claim a homestead on a investment property or rental property, only on the home that you live in. Okay. So I hope that helps, but that is something that's happening now with one of my listings and the seller's working on it. So I think it'll be rectified, but it's something to understand because it can stop a sale and it can keep a home from being unsellable, which is really hard, especially when you're trying to get the funds out of it and just move on. Okay. So anyway, hope that helps. If you have any questions, always reach out to me. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.